Good afternoon, students. We expect everyone joined. Uh, just waiting for the other friends also. Please just ping your friends to join the class immediately. In 2 minutes, we'll just start the class. So Pawan sir is the taking your session. Okay. Data science will be taken by him only. Okay. Okay, sir. Pawan sir.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, all of you. Today I'm here to demonstrate data science and machine learning. We are at a fundamental part today. Okay. First, we see. I think, as sir said, so many people have some doubts in installing GraphLab. Okay. The first thing is I want all of you to first click on the link what I have shared. Please. Yeah. Yeah. So this is our plan actually. Okay. This is the content. Actually, I want to demonstrate this with Anaconda 2. Why specifically means it is also happening in Anaconda 3, but core something complex. Okay. So I don't want to face any complexities while writing the codes related to the different machine learning algorithms. I found very easy methods in GraphLab. That's why I'm suggesting you to learn GraphLab. Why? Because if you install GraphLab, you will learn a complete machine learning algorithm which very much less complexity. Okay, so this is our plan actually. Python basics we are starting today. All these things will be completed in this session, and then after that we'll start with NumPy and Pandas, and then we'll go for data visualization, and from 18th we'll start machine learning. But before going to start this session, I think so many people have the doubt in installing the software. So I suggest you to go to this link. Okay. If you click this link, so this page will be open here. So here you have to fill your details. For example, so here, which part of you can describe? Like, are you a student of a university or a college, or a training or boot camp, or student of Coursera, or instructor or professor? You can select that option accordingly, and then I have to give academic email. For example, I already registered my email address with this, so I'll give another ID if possible. Maybe it won't accept. Let us see. So, BP College of Engineering, Autonomous, job title, assistant.
Pawan sir, your voice is low.
Yeah, assistant professor. Course or certification name means here we'll write just machine learning. Okay. Describe how you would like to use GraphLab. It's not compulsory. Okay, if you want, you can give it. And this will be checked already. And if you click on register, okay, it's asking through Coursera, for example, through Coursera, right? So if you click register, so when you have registered with this mail ID, so here it will shows your mail ID here, and the license, the product key, that what it is provided. Okay, so if, there are two methods to install this GraphLab Create. Okay, if you click this, okay, the Anaconda 2 along with GraphLab will be installed. I think most of the people may install only Anaconda 2. The GraphLab may not be installed. For that people, my suggestion is to install with PIP. Okay, then you can, if you click on this view instructions, then it will shows that you have to go to Python command prompt, and you have to perform this command. Okay, you have to perform this command in Python prompt, right? And then it will install GraphLab in your system. Okay, I think so many people have successfully installed Anaconda 2, but not GraphLab, I think, right? So for that people, you better go to this. Otherwise, you can see the same thing in, for example, let me open the mail which I have given. Yeah. So if you log into the mail, what you have given in the registration form, okay, it will send a mail regarding the product key and all, and instructions that you are supposed to follow while installing this Anaconda 2 along with GraphLab. I think may not yet come. Okay. Maybe it went to spam. Okay. The mail not received. Okay. Let me show you the before mail what I have received from Turi Create. See, like this, you'll get a mail. Welcome to GraphLab Create. Okay. Then you'll get a registered email address and a product key and the personalized installation guide. If you click on this, you'll get the instructions how to do the installation. Okay. So like this, your registered mail ID and product key. And if you click this, the software will continuously install with Anaconda 2 and GraphLab. If Anaconda 2 only installed, and if you are facing difficulty in installing GraphLab, then go to pip installation. Very simple. Pip installation is very simple. Just copy this command and paste in your Python command prompt. Okay, in your Python command prompt, then it will installs the GraphLab Create. Okay, that's the thing. So you better do this before day after tomorrow, before I demonstrate S-frames. Okay, from S-frames onwards, the GraphLab necessity is there. Okay, so no problem. So before day after tomorrow, you can do that. There is no urgency now. Okay. Now let us see some Python fundamentals. Yeah. For that, I have to I have entered into Jupyter Notebook. Okay. So okay, let me show you how to start this Jupyter Notebook also. Okay. Right. Let me close it. Let me close it. Okay. Let me do it from beginning. Okay, this is my desktop. Okay. First, what I have to do is Windows R command prompt. Okay, you'll enter into command prompt, and then I want to do it in my updrive in my personal directory. Okay, in books, in Python, in regular practice, I want to do it. Okay, so here you can simply type Jupyter space notebook. Okay. So it starts your notebook. Okay. So this starts your notebook. Now this is the environment what you'll have in your notebook. Now go to new and click on Python 2. Okay. So now let us execute the first instruction in our Python, that is print. As you are in Python 2, no need of giving any parentheses if you want to print any message. Okay, I want to print the first, that is print hello world. So hello world will be printed. Let me name my notebook. Okay, here I can name my notebook. Initially it will be in untitled. Okay, so let me change the name of this notebook. For example, I want to give Python fundamentals, and let me give today's date, that is 15/06/2020. Okay, so this is the name of my notebook. Okay, such that I can easily distinguish from other notebooks. Okay, now if you want to create a new environment, a new cell environment, you can go to this here. This is the insert tab. Here if you click this insert cell below, here you will get another cell here. Okay, so if you want to change it to a description cell, okay, here you'll have an option called code markdown raw NB convert heading. Okay, so if you click on this markdown here, you can name this. For example, I want to demonstrate how to create variables in Python. Okay, and press Control Enter or Shift Enter. Okay, the difference between Control Enter and Shift Enter means, Control Enter means it is only execute the code, and Shift Enter means it only it executes as well as it creates a new cell also. So now I want to do some I want to demonstrate some variables. For example, I want to initialize I with 4, for example, like this. Okay, so what is this I equal to 4 means? Here and in Python, no need to give any specific data type here. I think some people are messaging me. Okay. Okay, some people asking me to how to open Jupyter notebook again. Just go to command prompt and type Jupyter space notebook. That's it. That's it. Okay, open your command prompt. Windows R. Okay, if you click on Windows R, here already CMD will be there. Otherwise, you type CMD and press enter. It opens command prompt. Okay, go to your folder and type Jupyter space notebook command. Okay, it opens Jupyter notebook. Okay, no problem. Right. So I equal to 4. This is a variable. So the advantage with Python means here no need to declare any data types like our C, Java languages, like int, float, like that. What is the value that you are giving to a particular variable? Accordingly, the data type will be automatically decided. For example, here I assigned 4 to I. So if I print type of I, then it says that it is int. Okay. For example, I want to create another variable called f equal to 4.15, for example. Okay, and if I print what is this type of f, okay, then it says that it is float. Okay, so accordingly the variable, the type, the value what you are giving, accordingly the variable will be converted into that particular data type. Okay, similarly b is equal to true. Okay, so if you print type of b, then it says that it is bool. That means Boolean type. Similarly, I want to create one more data type. This is a string. Okay. Now I want to print its type. That is type of s. So what is it? It is string, str. Okay. Hope understand all of you, right? So now let us see some advanced Python types. Okay. Again, I want to give a markdown. Okay, here, if I say that creating advanced data types. Okay. So what are the advanced data types we have in Python means? Okay. First one is, if you want to reduce the font when compared to the previous, type 2 hashes. Okay. One is I want to demonstrate list. Another one that is tuple, and then another one that is dictionary. These are the advanced data types we have in Python. Okay, list, tuple, and dictionary. So how to create a list? I already told you there is no data types. Okay, if I say that you should not, if I say if you want to work list, you no need to start the instruction with the data type list. Okay, the thing is you have to know how to represent a list. That is enough. For example, I want to represent a list L equal to 1, L equal to 6, 5, 6, 2, 4, 8, for example. Okay, let me increase the font. 6, 2, 4, 8. This is my list. Okay. If you print this type of L, means what it represents? It is a list. Okay. So if you want to print that list, the list will be printed like this directly. Otherwise, if you want to print it element wise, for example, I want to print this as for I in L. Okay, I is a counter variable that has been created. Otherwise, let me create another variable here. For J in L, print of J. Okay, so then it will print element wise. Okay, for example, if you are not interested to print the elements in a new line, okay, I want to print them in horizontal direction, then you can simply give the delimiter end equal to space. Okay, then okay, it's giving error. Okay, okay, some problem is there. Okay, I think in Python, I think it's okay, we'll see afterwards. Okay, if you want to print element wise, you can if you want to access it element wise, you can do it like this. And one more advantage we have with the lists is we have a sort method to it. If you simply say that L dot sort, means the elements will be automatically sorted. Now, if you print the same list again, then it prints like this. Okay, why? Because the list is already sorted. Yes. So this is how we work with lists. For example, if you want to add any new elements to it, for example, I want to add a new element. For that, what you have to use is you have to use append method. I want to append a new value, for example, 5. Okay, I think 5 is not there. Yes, 5. So I have appended 5. Now I want to print my list. I want to print directly now. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 5. So the final value will be attended at the end of the list. Okay. Again, if you sort it further with the new element, the list will be sorted and it will be printed. Okay. Now let us see the tuple here. The difference between list and tuple means the elements will be included like this. For example, 6, 2, 8, 4. Okay, the list is the list will create the elements with the help of square brackets, and tuple will create the elements with the help of parentheses. But there is a difference between list and tuple, where list is mutable, and the tuple is immutable. Immutable in the sense, once the tuple has been created, it will not be changed. Okay. For example, I want to change, for example, let me print the first element, that is print t of 0. So it's printing 6, right? So I want to change the first element. For example, t of 0 is equal to 5. Okay. Then it will give an error. Why? Because once it is created, means created. You cannot change any individual values. Okay. But there is a possibility that if you want to add any new elements, okay, you can do like this. For example, concatenation. You can do that with the concatenation. That is, for example, I want to add 9 and 10. Okay. Now, if you print t, see, so many people will get a doubt that, sir, as you're saying that tuple is an immutable one, how it is adding new elements? Here, one thing you have to remember is here there is a memory illusion concept is there. For example, let me demonstrate with this. Okay. For example, this is my tuple, for example, the tuple whose name is t. Okay. This is t. Initially, it has some elements in this. Okay. Like 6, 2, 4 or something like that. So whenever you have created that tuple, means the elements will be directly created in the memory. Next, what I'm doing is I'm adding 9 and 10. But here, if you observe, there is no name for 9 and 10, right? We are directly adding the elements to the t, right? So it doesn't have any name or reference. So here, what we are doing is here another tuple which has the reference called null. Okay, which has the reference called null. When you perform this t plus is equal to 9 and 10, what happens is the memory locations will be like this. Like this. So the null will be killed. For the entire this thing, the name will be given as t. The null reference will be killed automatically. The null reference will be killed automatically, but you will get you can have an illusion that the new elements are actually concatenated to the tuple, but it is not. It is, they are in different memory locations. Okay. I think some people are having some doubts. Yeah, I'm already presenting the screen. See, I'm at a tuple and I'm demonstrating about the tuples. Okay. I'm already presenting my screen. I don't know what happened. Please, sir, my screen is visible. Okay. 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 I will re-share my screen. Okay. Now, is it visible? Yes. Now, is it visible? Okay, good. Right. So initially, what I'm saying is, okay, initially we have created a tuple called t. Okay, this is how the tuple called t. Initially, we have some elements. Okay, what are those elements? 6, 2, 8, 4, right? We have initially the elements 6, 2, 8, and 4, right? This is the initial element. Later, what I have done, I have added the new elements called 9 and 10. Okay. But if you observe here, the tuple what we are concatenating here doesn't have any reference. We are directly adding the tuple without having any reference. Such kind of tuples, it will call it as a null reference. Okay. So whenever you have performed this t plus is equal to 9 and 10, then the resultant tuple will be look like this. You will have an illusion that both are combined, but they are not actually combined. Okay. So 6284 will be will be here only. 6, 8, 2, 4. Similarly here also 9 and 10. Just you have an illusion. That's it. Okay. I think all of you understand this, right? So the same concept will be applied to one more immutable object, what we have in Java, that is string. The same principle. The same principle. So many people say that string is an immutable object, but still we are able to add some content to it, and it is also handling it. So what is happening actually? This is what actually happening. Okay. So this is about the tuples, and now let us move on to the dictionary. For example, the dictionary is actually a key value pair. Okay, it is a key value pair. Key value pair means it has initially it has every element has two types of element set, that is key value set. Okay, for example, here if I write like this, 1 Rama. So here 1 is I'm calling it as a key and Rama as a value. Okay. Similarly, I want to create another second Raja. Okay. Here second means here there is no particular format for a dictionary. That means if you want to assign a key, for example, if you want to assign a key, the key may be any type. Okay. The key may be sometime number, the key may be sometimes string, like that. Okay. Similarly, we can keep on adding a new element to it. For example, I want to create one more okay. So foo of 1, that means I have added one more key, that is foo, and the value is 1. Let me add one more. Okay, that is bar, the value is 2.3, and I want to add one more, that is s, and I want to give it as a my first dictionary. Okay, so this is my dictionary. If you observe, every element has a pair. Okay, what is that pair? Key value pair. Okay, the first element is key, the second element is value. Now if you want to print this, print of D, so you'll get a dictionary like this. Okay, for example, if you want to individually print the values, now what you have to do is, so for example, I want to do like this, for key in D. Okay, for key in D, print D of key. So here it will print only values if you observe. Okay, Rama, Raja, 1, 2.3, and my first dictionary. So these are the values just. If you want to print them along with the keys, then you can print like this, key. So in Python, the concatenate operator is comma. Okay, you can print like this. Otherwise, like this. Okay, 1, the key is 1 and the value is Rama. The key is second and the value is Raja, like that. Okay, So if you here you can access element by element. Okay. So here there is no such rule that the value only a single. That means if you observe here in key value pair, okay, the key must be a single value. That is confirmed. That single value either it may be an integer, float, string. That is our requirement. But there is no guarantee that the value always will be a whole value. Sometimes this may be an integer, sometimes it may be a float, or sometimes it may be a list, sometimes it may be a dictionary also. Okay. For example, let me create a dictionary of dictionaries, for example. For example, I want to create dictionary which is called as a shop. Okay. Shop. Here what I want to do is, here in Vizag, for example, I have a supermarket in a different and having different branches in different cities. Okay. For example, in Vizag, I want to give sales. Okay. What is the sales is, for example, how much sales for Santur soap? For example, it's sold 45. Okay, comma, and how much sales for Maggi noodles? Okay, so Maggi, it happened 67. Similarly, I want to track the sales of, for example, Ponds. Okay, Ponds powder, how much it is? For example, Ponds powder, for example, it has been sold 23. And one more, let me take, for example, Tur dal. Know what is Tur dal? Yes, Kandipappu. Okay, 58. So these are the sales of my supermarket Vizag branch. Okay. Similarly, I want to maintain my brand Vijayawada branch. Okay. Another dictionary that represents the sales of the supermarket of Vijayawada. Like this. Okay. Otherwise, I think it is exceeded. Okay. You can do like, you can create like this also. Okay. Santur, for example, it is 58, and Maggi noodles is, for example, 35, and Ponds is only 14, and the Tur dal only 10 has been sold. Okay. Similarly, for another city like that, you can create. Okay. So this is called as dictionary of dictionaries. Okay. So how to access the elements of such kind of dictionaries then? Then what I want to do is, here for key, if I say that for key in shop, for example, so when you say that for key in shop means, so it represents Vizag and Vijayawada, key means, right? So then what I want to do is, again I have to create another for loop. Why? Because its value is another key, its value is another dictionary, so we'll have nested key, right? So okay, let me clearly say that, for example, key 1. Okay, key 1 represents the keys of Vizag and Vijayawada. And now what I'll do is, I'll create another key called key 2. Okay, key 2 in shop of key, shop of key 1. Okay, shop of key 1. What do you mean by shop of key 1 actually? Shop of key 1 is another dictionary, right? Will you agree or not? Shop of key 1 is another dictionary. If you want to access individual elements, so what you are supposed to do is, again you have to parse in that dictionary. So here, if you say, for example, I want to print key 1 first here, print key 1. And then I want to parse the what are the values in key 1. Now I'll print shop of key 1 of key 2. Okay, it just look like a double dimension array. Okay, so shop of key 1 is another dictionary. I want to access what is the value of shop of key 1. Okay. So it will print like this. Okay, Vizag, but here there is no clarity here, right? So for that, what we have to do is we have to print the key 2 also. Key 2. Then it says that in Vizag branch, these are the sales, and in Vijayawada branch, these are the sales. Okay, so here we can do some analysis also here. By having these kinds of nested dictionaries, you can perform some data analysis. Which product has been sold more in all the branches, or which product is sold less, or what are the average sales of each and every product in all the branches. Like that, we can do some analysis on this. Okay. So this is about the dictionary. Okay. Now we'll go to some advanced printing strategy. How to perform some advanced printing in Python. For example, I want to print our float value is percentage f and int value is percentage s. Full stop. So what you want to print here actually, f comma I. So what are this f and I? Here we will initially declare some variables right here. I want to print I and f. Okay, only these two values I want to print. Okay, for that I'm using some advanced printing statements. That means that involves some control strings here. Here advantage with Python means here a common control string will be assigned to all the type of variables. Okay, but in our C, for int, if you want to print int, we use percentage D, right? For int, for printing float, we use percentile F. Like that, for a specific value, there will be a specific control string. But in the advantage with Python is there is no specific string for any data type. For all the data type, the same control strings will be used. So here you can see the values here. Our float value is 4.15 and int value is 4. Okay, I hope all of you have understood. Now let us see some conditional statements here. Conditional statements in Python. Okay. You can write conditional statements like this. If I equal to 1, and if you want to do some logical operations, you can use and f greater than 4. But the thing is here you have to follow indentation. Very strict. All the conditional statements or any control structure that you are using in Python, the indentation is very important. The indentation says that that instruction belongs to that particular conditional statement or looping statement or a function. Why? Because in Python, if you want to create a block, the braces will not be used. Okay, the braces doesn't used in Python. The Python is completely indentation based language. Okay, for example, here what you have created is if I equal to 1, I equal to 1 and the f is greater than 4, what you are supposed to do, those instructions must be passed by giving some indentation, and then you can write the statements. For example, I want to print, then what I want to print is I is 1. Don't confuse that for some printing statements I'm using parentheses and for some statements I'm not using parentheses. Doesn't happen. Some statements may use parentheses and some statements may not use parentheses, but still your statements will be printed automatically. I is 1 and f is greater than 4. Okay. Okay. Next, I want to create another condition, that is else if. For that, what you have to do is you have to give if. Okay. The condition is if I is greater than 4 or f is greater than 4, then what you have to do? Then I want to make a statement that both are greater than 4. And if you want to execute any default instruction, that is else, print either of them less than 4. Okay. So what you will get here is both are greater than 4. Why? Because if any one statement is true, it will execute the statement. Why? Because here I is equal to 1 means here I is not 1. So here false. So the total will be false here. And if here I is greater than 4, actually it is not, but f is greater than 4, so it is true. So if you perform logical or operation between false and true, you will get true. That's why you got the message that both are greater than 4. Okay. So you can print the same statement within the parenthesis also. Okay, no problem. That doesn't make a difference. Okay. I think some people may have a confusion. Some print statement have parentheses and some print statement don't have parentheses. You can use accordingly. You can use according in what format you want to print the results. Accordingly, you can use or not use parentheses. And now we'll move on to the next concept, that is, then somebody is asking doubt. So we need not type else completely, sir. Okay, let us check what happens. Yeah, no need actually. Okay, no need. But in some applications, we need to follow this the instructions which should execute by with the default condition, right? If any of the previous condition are failed, what it's supposed to print? If you have such statements, you have to use else. Okay, otherwise no need. That completely depends upon the type of application what you are using. Okay, now we'll go for the next, that is conditional loops. Okay, so here loops, we already seen the for loop, right? While printing the list, that is, for example, if you want to print, let us take another example, L is equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, now if you want to print this element wise, then you have to use for loop like this. Okay, print I, so it prints element wise. Okay, so if you want to use while loop, for example, initially I want to make counter is equal to 6 while counter is greater than is less than 10, is less than 10. What I want to do is I want to print counter, and I want to increment counter, so it prints the number. Okay, like this we can use while loop. Okay, this is how we use looping statements. No, you can't use normal n. Okay. Normal n means it will comes under bitwise end. There is difference between bitwise end and logical end. I think you know that. You know that the difference. Okay. Of course, you can use if you require that you can use. Okay, if you have to perform that operation at that particular core segment, it is if it is required, then you can use it. But I want to say that the ampersand symbol and a and the end is not same. Okay. Now let us see the how to create functions. Creating functions in Python. How to create a function. Yeah. Okay. For example, here, what is the advantage of this functions in Python means here no need to give return type. Okay, no need to give a return type, irrespective of whether function returns a value or not. Okay, the function which is returning or which is not returning, both will be defined as same. Okay, let me demonstrate one example here. For example, here this is my function. Okay, the function will start with a keyword called def and then function name. Okay, having the parameters. Okay, x, def add 2 of x. So what is the meaning of this function means y is equal to x plus 2, and then what I want to do is I want to return y. But here we don't have any return type like int or float, not required. Okay, the function doesn't have any return type. The Python function doesn't have any return types. Okay, now the function has been executed. Now let us check whether it is working properly or not. I want to initialize I with 5, and then I want to print add 2 of I. So how much it is? 7. Okay. Actually, it is returning the value. For example, if it is not returning the value, it is just printing the value of y there itself. Okay, then no need to print add 2 of I. You can simply call the function. That's it. You can simply call the function. Then it will give the, it will return the, it will print the result here automatically. Okay, so here one thing you have to observe is no need of giving a return type whether that function will return a particular value or not. Okay, let us see some shortcut function also, single line function. Okay, the single line function means, for example, square is equal, for example, I want to define square here. Square, we have a function called lambda x such that it returns x into x. Okay, so this is what we'll call it a single line function. Okay, so you are giving the function, the definition of the function in the single line itself. Now if you call this function square with the 5, then it will automatically returns 25. Okay, so this is a single line function it is. Yes, hope all of you understand this. If anybody has any doubts? Anybody has any doubts? Anything is not. Lambda means it is another type of creating a function, okay, in Python function, but it is a single line function. It will not be look like a block like this. It will not look like a block like this. Okay. Okay. So here what I am doing is, here lambda means if you pass any some value x, okay, it returns x into x. Okay, for example, here I am passing 5. So what it returns? 5 into 5, that is 25. Yeah, keyword. Yeah, if you want to save more space, for example, if you don't want to use much instructions for your function, if you want to finish it in a single, or otherwise I can say that if you want to define any mathematical function there, okay, you want to take some exponential value of x, or if you want to get some logarithmic value of x, or if you want to sine value, or if you want to tan value, like that. If you want to reduce the size, that means reducing the size means if you want to reduce the size entirely to the single line function, then lambda function will be useful. But for defining the function, if the single line is not enough, then go for this function. Okay, these are here what I want to say is we have different functions to implement in Python. Either it may be multiple instructions or a single line instructions. So it is general, right? The functions must be generalized. Don't give any constants. Okay, the functions must be generalized. Okay, that means that function should work for any value, any kind of value. Okay, like that, the functions always must be generalized. So it is returns, right? It is only returns value. The meaning what you are doing is if I pass any x here for this function, it should return x into x. Here we are not printing the value, we are returning the value here. Okay. Default, you are returning the value here. Okay. But this function has the ability of both returning as well as printing the statement in the function itself. Okay. So I want here. I want to give. Please give me 2 minutes of time. I want to give a small question for you. You are ready? Yeah, I want to ask some questions orally just to check your attentiveness. Okay. Okay. Just give me answers in the chat box. Okay. The first question is, I think one more doubt here. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The first question is, we have data types in Python which should be declared at the time of variable declaration. Is it true or false? Yeah, good. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So lists are mutable and tuples are immutable. Is it true or false? Yes. Those who are giving true, correct. Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Third question. Third question. The Python functions, the Python functions may or may not have return type. True or false? The answer is false. So many people are giving true. I think students, they are confused. I asked the functions may or may not have return type. I already told you the function doesn't have any return types, right? The function doesn't have any return types. Okay. So I think the question is you have to think. Okay. Right. Which data type is helpful for us to create the elements that contains key value pairs? Which data type is helpful for us to create the elements that has key value pairs? I think some people are giving false again. It is not true false. Dear students, it is just a question. Okay. Good. Yeah, question. Which data type is useful for us if you want to create the set of elements where each set of element will have key value pair? Okay. So which method is used to add new elements to a list? Good, very good, very good. Happened, very good. Yeah. I want to give a small program for you. You think you can take this as a program or a case study. My suggestion is to students, please implement the programs. Why? Because if you want to learn any programming language, the only solution is writing programs. Okay, if you want to understand the language and if you want to learn the language or if you want to expertise any language, the only solution is writing the programs. Okay, so let me give a sample program, okay, for you. Okay, I'll write the statement in here. Write a Python program which generates an electricity bill based on number of units consumed. Okay. The slab, I think all of you know what is the slab rates, right? The slab rates are as follows. Okay. Cat A. Cat A means what? Category A. If you consume units from 0 to 99, okay, so you have to charge a minimum amount. Okay, minimum amount is, for example, 65 rupees per single phase houses. Minimum is 180 rupees for three-phase house. Okay, some people have single-phase houses and some people may have three-phase houses, right? This is the minimum, that is category A. Category B, if you consume the units from 100 to 199. Yes, I think somebody has a doubt. Sir, how can we take the inputs at the time of execution? Take default values. Else I'll show you how to take the inputs from the keyboard. No problem. So amount is greater than or equal. Yeah, I'm writing. Not amount actually. See here the green. These are units consumed. Okay, category A units, and these are category B units. Okay. If you consume 0 to 99, okay, that is minimum charge. If you consume from 100 to 99, for single phase house, minimum charge plus, I think again getting the doubts. Okay, let me finish the problem, then you can ask the doubts. Okay, let me finish the problem. For single phase house, okay, minimum plus 4 rupees per unit. Okay. For three phase house, the amount should be minimum plus 6 rupees per unit. Okay, fine. Now category C units, 200 to 299. If you consume units between 200 to 299, for single phase, it is minimum plus 4 rupees per unit up to 199 units. Okay, plus 6 rupees per unit. And similarly, for three-phase houses, for example, minimum 4 rupees, 6 rupees per unit up to 199 units, and then 8 rupees from that onwards. Okay, 8 rupees per unit. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to generate an electricity bill based on the number of units that you are supplying. Okay, so according to that you have to write the code. Okay, for example, what you have to do is, you have to take inputs are, first input is, first one, either single phase or three phase. That is the first input. The second input is number of units consumed. Fine, right? So some people asked me, how to accept input through keyboard, right? Okay, so for that, what I will do is, for example, if you want to take n int raw_ input of enter units. Okay, then it will ask the to enter the value. Okay, then you will enter accordingly. Then what you will do is, for example, I want to print n here. Once execute this instruction again. For example, here 8. Okay. execute re-execute the code. Still under execution, I think. Interrupt the kernel. So if you want to stop the execution in middle, you can press this interrupt kernel option. Then you will stop the execution in middle. Okay. Yes, all of you, problem is clear. Any doubts? Yeah, raw underscore input means it returns string value initially. Okay, raw input function returns string. Okay, so if you want to if you want an integer number, for example, after raw underscore input, what you will do is you typecast it. Okay, int of means what? The number what you are taking will be converted into a number. Okay, for example, if you won't give this int int, if you enter 5, then that 5 doesn't treat it as a number. It will be treated as a string. But we want numbers, right? Like that. So if you want to take a number, then you typecast it into int int. Raw input and input, that depends on versions. That's it. In different versions, so it will be used in different manner. Version, there is a difference with version. Okay, let me close it and reopen it. It's not. Python fundamentals. If you execute this, there is a problem with the kernel. Okay, let me restart the Jupyter. Again, restart Jupyter space notebook. If you stuck somewhere, you can interrupt the kernel like this. Okay, no problem. Yeah. So here, if you enter 95, for example, 95 units. Okay. So 95 will be assigned to n. And if you enter, if you print n here, you will get 95. Okay, is it clear? So like that, you can access the key input from the keyboard. Oh, no need to take str. Why? Because raw underscore input will return string by default. So no need of str. Of course, in future, if you want to do some typecasting, for example, if I have numbers and I want to convert them as string, then you can use str. Okay. Okay, the program is clear. Yes. The first stage is you are supposed to create or we are supposed to generate an electricity bill. Okay, for a specific number of units. For example, if you enter first input is, for example, single phase, and if you enter number of units are 75, then it should print 65 rupees. Why? Because it is a single phase and you have entered number between 0 to 99. For example, if I enter, 225, what is it? 225, okay, and it is a three-phase house. So how your electricity should be calculated? That is minimum, the first, okay, 180 plus, okay, 225 means, and then how many units for how many units you are supposed to calculate 6 rupees? Up to 199 units, right? So not up to 199 actually here. Yeah, up to 199. Yeah. So if you eliminate 99, so how many units are there? 100 units, sir. So 100 units into 4 rupees plus, and what are the remaining units? 25 units, right? So 25 into, it is a 3 phase, right? So 3 phase means it should be 6 rupees here, and it is 8 rupees. Am I clear? If anybody has doubt. Yeah, that is what I told you, right? That the difference, the difference is only difference with the version only. Okay. As Pavan Kalyan Pulavarthi said, input function is used in Python 3 versions, and raw_ input will be used in Python 2. Okay. That depends upon versions. That's it. Okay. So the model input bill calculation I shown you here. Is it clear, or anybody has any doubt? So my aim is to calculate the electricity bill for a 3-phase unit, 3-phase house with 225 units consumed. Okay. So the minimum amount is 180, and the remaining 100 units 6 rupees, and the 25 units it is 8 rupees. So how much it is totally? 600 plus 780 plus 200. So 980 rupees is the current bill. Like that you have to calculate. That is the first stage. Second stage, repeat the same for 5 houses, 5 different houses, and identify which house has the highest bill. For example, if you have an apartment, in the apartment we may have 30 houses or 40 houses. Okay. So I want to identify which apartment has consumed more electricity. Okay. Is it clear? So better do it. Yeah, 26 units. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. 200 to 25, right? So, okay, right. 26 units. Good. Okay, some people, how you are calculating, not getting that. Okay, I'll show you. I'll explain one more time. Okay. For example, it is 3-phase house. Units consumed. How many units consumed? It is 225, right? So 3-phase house means you have to identify what is the minimum charge here. Okay, what is the minimum charge here? 180 plus 180 means you have already charged from 0 to 99. Now you have to charge a different slab from 100 to 199. That means how many units are there? 100 units, right? So what is the slab cost from up to 199 units for 3-phase house? That is 6 rupees, right? So we have to give 100 into 6. Okay, now we finished up to 199 units. Out of 225, we finished 199 units. So how many units left? 26, right? So 26 into 8 rupees. So how much will be the bill? 780 plus 26 into 8. I think it is 780 plus 48, 8, 4. So 368, right? 368. 780 plus 368. How much it is? I think 1148, I think. Am I right? Yes, is it clear, all of you? How to calculate the electricity bill? Okay, you are very strong. Some people are very strong at mathematics. Good, good. Okay. I'm just Okay, right. So 978 rupees. Still 780 plus 198. How much it is? 978, right? Okay. Some people, I'm not taking the calculations. Let me clear about this. I'm not taking the calculation. Just I'm giving some random calculations, and I'm giving that. Okay. If you use the calculator, you will get the exact value. Okay. Okay. So this is how we calculate. Okay. You do the same. You can give the same formula in what do you call in program, and you can observe the results. So the program is clear. So before tomorrow's class, you better complete this. You first complete for an individual house, and then you complete this for some 10 or 20 houses. Okay. That means what I want to do is I want you to keep these calculations in a loop. Okay. Excuse. Okay. Any more doubts? Any doubts? Any doubts regarding any concept or okay, leave it. So many people are very serious in calculating the electricity bill. I think those people got high electricity bill this month. Yes, to that double triple some bill may come. That's why those people are very particular about electricity bill. Okay, good. Yeah, sure. You can ask me, no problem. But before that, you have to share your screen. Okay, you have to share your screen, then I can explain. You can ping me through Skype, or you can ping me through uh, Google Meet or anything. Then I can explain. Yeah, you can use any function you want accordingly. Yeah, of course, you can do it. That fun of y must be some user-defined function, right? You are saying, right? That may be a user-defined function, or that may be a mathematical function, anything. Okay. Of course, it is possible. It is possible. You can do that. Yeah, in Python, there are some mathematical functions are there. Okay, in NumPy package, there are some mathematical functions are there. You can use that, or you can use user-defined functions. Yeah, that see people, and what I'm saying is I too got an error. Okay, I too got an error, but still I can, but still I have installed a GraphLab by using that pip instruction. Okay, I too got. I think you are getting error after installing Anaconda, right? Creating Conda environment. Yeah, that is what I'm saying. That error is occurred. So what you have to do is you have to install one more precaution I want to say for some people. What is that is if some people have already Anaconda 3, okay, you better make sure that your Anaconda 2 must install in a different drive. Okay, see here in F drive I have installed Anaconda 3, and in E drive I installed Anaconda 2. I have not installed in both in same drive. Okay, that's very important. If you install them in separate drive, then only you can find two versions like this, Anaconda 2 as well as Anaconda 3. Okay, so you better make sure that is a very important precaution that you have to take while installing that. After installing Anaconda 2 successfully, what you have to do is So what you have to do is, for example, I'll show it for Anaconda 3. Okay, copy this Anaconda 3, this f/Anaconda 3, Control C, and go to this PC properties. And go to advanced system settings, and in environment variables, here you may have class path, right? Here in this class path, you better paste the Anaconda 2. Okay, f/Anaconda 2 or e/Anaconda 2, whatever you installing. Okay, that is what the class path you are setting for your Anaconda. Okay. Okay, let me share. I'll share. Okay, now it is visible. So what you have to do is, you have to, after installation of Anaconda 2, copy the path like this. Okay, copy the path like this and go to, now is it visible? Okay, right. Go to this PC, properties, go to advanced system settings, go to environment variables. Here you may have class path variable here. If you don't have class path variable, you can create new and you can give the variable name as class path here. And value is what is the path that you have copied, f/Anaconda 2 or Anaconda 3, whatever. I think Anaconda 2 only you have to do that. You have to do. And along with that, you have to do some more copy pastes. These site packages, scripts, all these things you have to copy in your environment variables. Okay. You can directly download GraphLab, or you can install through Python prompt. That is also allowed. So is it clear? Are any doubts? If still anybody having doubts, you can ping me or you can call me. I'll give my number. In chat window, I'll give my number. So this is my number. You can call me. Okay. You can call me, but you have to share your screen, or you can just you can arrange my Google Meet or Skype or whatever video call. And if you share the screen, and I'll guide you so that you can install your Anaconda 2 and along with GraphLab. That is also okay, right? TeamViewer or any desk, right? You can use that, no problem. So any doubts? Shall we wind up the session? Or any doubts?
Can we end, sir?
Sir?
Can we end?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm waiting for student questions.
Yeah. No one is responding.
So, okay, sir. Shall let us terminate the session? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.